Aliens. Probably one of the most fascinating creatures out there. Every alien that has ever been introduced to the world of make-believe, sci-fi, or even horror has all had rather interesting concepts and developments behind them. Aliens today are seen in many different lights of perspective, whether it be creepy, horror, goofy, or meme material. Aliens have not only just been a massive staple in the Hollywood and movie industry, but they have also been a massive staple for many conspiracy theorists out there that talk about the government, Area 51, and what they might be hiding from the public. Today, while aliens are still rather very popular in the Hollywood industry, it's really hard to understand why aliens today are not seen in a more creepy or horror-like light. And by this, I mean, why don't we see aliens in the Halloween industry more than we should? This one major thought has always been drilling in the back of my mind. And to this day, I really don't understand why we don't see more aliens in the Halloween industry as a character. Could it be that aliens today are just seen more of just kind of more eerie, funny, or goofy? Or could it be something completely different? I remember watching a video from the great and famous Hauntformer talking about why he loved aliens, and I was inspired to make this video. And actually, with the help of Hauntformer himself, I wanted to explain and talk about this possible subject and get to the bottom of to why aliens seem to be the one creature that gets excluded from Halloween more so than any other genre out there. Now, with this subject and information in mind, I wanted to dive deep into this possible genre and talk about possibly one of the most coldest cases when it comes to the genres of Halloween, which is why aliens are excluded from Halloween probably more than any other genre out there. So without any further ado, let's get into this case and let's get into the video. So where does the story begin when it comes to how aliens even made it into the horror industry as a character and as an entire genre that we know it of today? Well, that would have to be the Roswell incident that took place in July of 1947. The Roswell incident was a recovery of a metallic and rubber debris from a military balloon by Roswell Army airfield personnel who issued a press release announcing possession of a flying disc. Decades later, conspiracy theories claim that debris from an alien spaceship had been covered up by the government. In response, in 1994, the United States Air Force published a report concluding the crashed object was a top-secret nuclear test surveillance balloon from Project Mogul. Today, conspiracy theories about the event persist despite explanations linking the incident to Project Mogul, a military balloon, or having been described as the world's most famous, most exhaustively investigated, and most thoroughly debunked UFO claim. Its myth has become a cultural phenomenon, and the Roswell incident continues to be of interest in the popular media. Portrayals of the incident are a prominent and enduring trope in popular culture and mass media, commonly associated with gray aliens and flying saucers. And it was because of this Roswell incident why aliens started becoming more greater and more noticed in the Hollywood and horror industry. Not to mention Universal taking the time to make their own alien-like creatures. But the question still remains, Why is it that even though we have many different kinds of eerie and creepy cases of aliens abducting people, many creepy cases of people seeing humanoid-like alien creatures out in the woods, out in fields, but yet today it seems like aliens don't get the love and appreciation they actually should get in the horror and Halloween industry. But there is evidence out there, however, to prove and show that aliens can be eerie and can be creepy. And there are 4 different kinds of movies that I believe would be great honorable mentions to kind of give a great idea of how aliens could be and can be creepy and eerie in a horrific kind of way. These 4 movies simply go as follows: the Aliens franchise, Dark Skies, Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind, and The Thing. Now, if you have not heard of any of these movies, it is definitely recommended that you check these out, definitely on your streaming services, or possibly purchase it for you to watch. Now, everybody knows what the Alien franchise is. Such a classic and such a good, horrific kind of alien movie, and a great example as to what aliens could and should be like when it comes to the Halloween industry. Now, another good idea is using the concept of Dark Skies. Dark Skies is a movie that takes the concept of little green or little gray men with big black eyes, big heads, and slender bodies to the next level. Aliens pretty much harass a family, practically harassing them left and right until they start breaking and crumbling before their very eyes. Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind takes the 4 different major encounters of what it's like with aliens. The first kind being seeing a UFO, information being the second encounter, and contact being the third encounter, and abduction being the fourth. That is more based on the abduction part of aliens in general, and it's definitely a movie that should be highly recommended for any alien lover out there. Finally, you have The Thing. The Thing is more of a shapeshifter-like alien that turns into a very bloody-like mutant when discovered by a group of men who are stationed over there in Antarctica. The shapeshifting in the movie is actually quite gruesome, but it's a great example as to what an alien actually could be, using different kinds of crazy-like body structures like tentacles, claws, etc. There is definitely great potential. So using this information, I wanted to point out the fact that many Halloween companies today just don't seem to get the idea of what they could actually do with aliens. However, many companies today seem to be putting that creativity towards things that we don't need, such as clowns or zombies. When in reality, we could be getting so many more kinds of creatures that we could all be loving and enjoying for many different kinds of audiences out there. So why is it that even though we have all of this information and all the references based off movies, why is it that today aliens seem to lack in the Halloween industry probably more than any other horror character genre out there? Well, to challenge this question with a little more evidence, I wanted to simply read off some of the people from the community who had their own opinions as to why aliens aren't targeted as much in the Halloween industry. This one individual reads as follows: "It's because Halloween traditions and aesthetics at their core are rooted in harvest, celebrations of the dead, and paganism/witchcraft. Aliens don't really factor into that in any meaningful way. And it does make sense, because aliens seem to be more in the sci-fi genre. When we think Halloween, we think of things like zombies, vampires, witches, mummies, and so on. However, there are many different kinds of creatures that could fit into the Halloween, and unfortunately, aliens don't seem to have that more kind of mystical, kind of mythical creature that Halloween seems to present out to the public. And it seems like many fans of Halloween seem to like that aspect more so than any other aspect of Halloween, because it's fall. When you think fall, you think of orange leaves, pumpkins, scarecrows, etc. You don't think of aliens. But when you think of laser guns, that would probably be the first thing you think of when you hear aliens. But there have been some actual good evidence of great animatronics and props of aliens that companies have made in the past and honestly just recently. Like in 2020 when Home Depot made their first life-size alien made by Pan Asia Creations. This alien, while he was simplistic and not scary, he was still a very awesome looking traditional alien with gray skin, a gray outfit, with green lights. He was animated with hand movements and sound effects. He measured about 72 inches tall and is easy to set up with outdoor covering. His LEDs would glow green in the eyes and also on the chest. He was also battery operated and motion censored. And while the Home Depot life-size alien was probably one of my favorite alien props ever to date, there have also been some amazing other designs from other companies. Before Morbid Enterprises went out of business, they made an incredible prop known as the Giant Alien Leader. While no animation was added to this prop, definitely he was a sight to see. He was also something more of a static prop than anything else. But he had some really awesome glowing blue eyes, and with the right lighting effect, looked very eerie off in the distance if you had a small alien display in your haunt. Another great example of a good alien prop would have to be Distortions Unlimited's Alien Specimen for 2023. Now this animatronic is professional grade and is a pneumatic animatronic that was more based on jump scare alone. It featured this alien-like specimen that looked kind of more spider-ish, sitting inside of a contained vessel with a plexiglass covering over it to make it look like that you were safe from it. Now, during the time that it started activating, you would hear noises saying that the machine was malfunctioning, and fog would protrude out in front of the plexiglass. And as the plexiglass slowly lowered, which was unseeable due to the fog, he would jump out at you and would scare its audience the best it possibly could. And while this alien specimen was a great idea, I think many other companies should definitely reference off of this. And definitely take a moment to understand that there are amazing possibilities out there for aliens to have more than just big black eyes, big round heads, and slender-like bodies. The last honorable mention that should be put out there has to be the classic Roswell alien-based prop. Now this was not an animatronic, but was a very well-detailed prop that was made by Distortions Unlimited. It featured what many believed to be the Roswell alien creature that protruded from the disc-like object that fell from the sky. And this alien, while like I mentioned before, had no animation, had great details and features to him, making himself look exactly like a true real-life alien that would step out of one of those flying saucers. So I wanted to put all of this information together. While there are some negatives and many positives, aliens today need to have a wider range of variety, more creativity, greater amounts of enjoyment to them. Something that can leave a massive staple on the Halloween industry, similar to what Michael Myers has done, zombies, witches, werewolves, vampires, and mummies have done for years and years. However, while there are so many pieces of evidence getting poured into this massive mixing bowl on why aliens seem to be excluded from Halloween and what we can do to fix it, I wanted to dig even deeper because that's just who I am. And I wanted to go to the one man I knew was more of an expert than I ever could be on aliens. A man very well educated and very well spoken on the subject of aliens. I wanted to invite Hauntformer onto the channel. A man who I've been trying to get here for a long time, and I'm so happy we finally got to hear from him. So, what I did simply was like I did in the last episode. I gave him a list of questions, and each question I simply asked him to answer to the best of his ability. So I wanted to get into this incredible interview with Hauntformer, who gave some incredible answers and incredible advice for many companies on how they can fix the problem with why aliens seem to be excluded from the Halloween industry. Let's get into this interview and let's get into the questions. Hauntformer, take it away.
Hey everybody, it's Jemmy Bones here, and today... Wait, I'm not Jemmy Bones. For all things Halloween, this is Hauntformer, and Jemmy Bones, thank you by the way, has invited me onto his channel to discuss aliens. So you know I had to be here. Let's jump into the questions because they're juicy. Question number 1. To start with, he wanted to ask me what is my favorite alien animatronic / prop. Well, Jimmy Bones and fans, I'm going to give you 2 answers because the first one is a distortions prop, and while distortions are props in animatronics, it's a bit of a professional grade character. So I'll give you my favorite professional one, which is a distortions one, and my favorite amateur one, as we'll call it. My favorite alien prop overall is the distortions Roswell alien, of course. The quintessential, most simple, standard gray alien that you can get, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it's not broke. This guy is sculpted by Jordu Shell, and if you look up Roswell or gray alien into Google Images, this prop will probably pop up as a result because it is so well done. Jordu, if you didn't know, also sculpted my other favorite prop of all time, Spasm. So it makes sense that his artistic expression has come back for this very iconic, very insanely amazing alien that I still don't have. But time will tell when I get it. As for the amateur one, I'm actually going to pick an oldie and one that not many people may remember. The Morbid Enterprises Giant Alien Leader, a prop that I actually have, but I've seen very little documentation of it. This is not a classic Roswell alien per se, but it is a classic like sci-fi 50s B-movie alien with the pointy like Spock ears. You have the big dome and the hands outstretched with the cloak and the very iconic little collar popped up. I love the look of this guy. Really wish there were more aliens like this out there, but it's very simple. Part of me wanted to give this to Alien Capsule, but I just don't feel like it has enough going for it. And frankly, there weren't a ton of options to pick from because, as we'll see in a minute, aliens are not very popular. How sad. Question 2. With this information in mind from the question above, why do you think companies don't produce more alien props in general? An excellent question, and I thought about this myself. And the best answer I can give is, simply put, aliens are not as popular in pop culture as perhaps they once were in the 1950s or even in the 1980s. I do think aliens have their place in pop culture right now, but it's more of this like LMAO, like goofy alien than anything actually serious or creepy, like the actual cryptids present themselves as. If you think about the trend of like zombies or clowns, they've started usually with a film or a television show or something that's very popular. The zombies with The Walking Dead, the clowns with It. When it comes to aliens, there is no big push for these classic kind of sci-fi aliens. They're a bit outdated, and because of that, I think companies aren't ready to take the risk. They're also extremely vague characters. They're not in-your-face scary. They're just kind of creepy, and that's why I love them, but I can see why companies are trepidatious to take a leap of faith on these characters. Question 3. Great question so far, by the way, Jimmy Bones. Why do you think that the alien genre as a whole is not popular in the Halloween industry as clowns, zombies, or other classic creatures? You know, it's funny, I was talking to my friend Jaden from Jaden's videos about this very thing. When you think about when these popular Halloween characters originated, a lot of them came from the classic Universal monster films. However, there were several aliens that also were a part of those Universal monster films, and the big aliens and the big bugs and the robots and the sci-fi wave of the 1950s really solidified itself in early Halloween culture. But we lost that. I suppose it's because aliens, technology, things of that sort have a more futuristic vibe than kind of a vintage Halloween aesthetic. And perhaps that's why. Also, some aliens, and I'll also lump robots and even to an extent some zombies to an extent, they almost fit better in a sci-fi category than horror. But when you look at the history of film and storytelling, science fiction and horror have always had an overlap. Think of the works of H.P. Lovecraft or H.G. Wells. All of these aliens or futuristic, weird, science gone wrong type of things, even Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, were a blend of science fiction and horror. Question number 4. Do you think when making alien props that companies should take a different approach to the alien character besides simple big heads with black eyes and gray skin? Totally. I love the grays or the green ones or whatever, but I think there's so much variety to aliens, why I love them so much. You can make them long-headed, big-headed, weird creatures like a Trevor Henderson type monster. In fact, Deathstalker, our new character for Spirit this year, is basically an alien or a demon or whatever. The aliens can get extremely versatile. You can put them in a spacesuit, you can have them just plain with their skin, you can have them have 3 heads or many eyes or whatever. There's a lot of variety when it comes to aliens, and I think to make them scarier and something that the public would be more appealed by, I could see them going away from the classic gray area. However, as Distortions in Making Monsters pointed out, the classic gray is always a safe bet for an alien prop. Question 5. What changes would you suggest companies to make in order to bring out the scare factor of aliens? Well, as I said, the classic gray is more creepy than actually scary. While I love the sci-fi aliens too, like the B-movie 1950s ones, like the giant alien leader, again, not super scary. My recommendation is to dip into the kind of SCP Lovecraftian horror of aliens. Give them tendrils or tentacles or weird things moving around like 5 heads or eyeballs or something weird that makes them interesting. Deathcrawler, step in the right direction. Keep moving down that avenue. Get weirder with it because people want the weird. I think Halloween works as opposed to other holidays, even Christmas, because we can push the envelope and continue to innovate with new characters. And finally, any other final thoughts I would like to add to this topic? Jemmy Bones said I could really talk about anything here. My plea is for these companies, take a risk with the aliens. They're not proven yet in the industry, simply put. Aside from Distortions, we've really gotten 4 main aliens that I can even think of, aside from like the zombie babies or little tabletop things or the skeleton. You have the alien capsule, toe-tagged corpse, giant alien leader, and the alien from Home Depot. That's pretty much it, unless you count Deathstalker. But really, those aliens are all we've got. I really think we need a little more to test the waters here. Put the effort that you've put into some of these other characters into an alien and really give it a legitimate chance. Make a really cool design, like you did with Harvester of Souls. Maybe an alien, trying to eat somebody. Or, I could do a whole thing about what I think the alien should be. I'll save that for a different discussion, but suffice to say, if a little more creativity was put into aliens, because let's be frank, toe-tabbed corpse is basically John Doe with alien feet, and alien capsule is a static of an alien sitting behind a pane of plastic. I really think there's a lot more you could do with these characters and pushing them to the sides. With all of the variants of clowns that we've seen, aliens have so much more potential. That's my soapbox on aliens. Thank you for watching. Jemmy Bones, hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to come back on if you want me. And you can catch me on my channel, Hauntformer. Just Google it, I guess. Thank you for watching. And remember, for all things Halloween, this is Hauntformer. Hauntformer out.
Thank you, Hauntformer. Now, to conclude this case, I simply wanted to put my personal opinion down on the entire subject of what this video truly represents. Now, in my personal opinion, I definitely feel that aliens are a very underrated genre for the Halloween industry. Unlike clowns and slashers, like Hauntformer had mentioned, I do definitely believe that aliens, sadly, do not have the best upper hand when it comes to popularity, because there's not a set character that everyone loves. The slashers all have a bunch of different characters: Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Chainsaw Massacre, and even Jason Voorhees, while the clown side has characters like Art the Clown or Pennywise. These characters are what founded and grounded the genre of the clown and the slasher industry. while unfortunately aliens just don't have any form of set character. Set characters, I do believe, play a massive role in this, but I also do believe that aliens are also quite expendable, meaning that they can probably have a massive large majority of different kinds of appearances, looks, and behaviors. Unfortunately, that makes it a lot harder to put a precise character on an alien. While aliens definitely give a more creepy and eerie vibe out to many of their audiences, unfortunately, there's just not a massive gathering behind the characters. But I definitely feel like aliens could gain a lot of traction, and there is a lot of creativity that many of these companies could portray to manage to possibly get aliens more popular out there. It would be great to start seeing aliens kind of start rising a little higher to the top, because I definitely believe that regardless of whether Halloween is more set on the foundations of witchcraft, harvest, paganism, it's more of how creepy can you actually get with a certain monster or character. And at the end of the day, we're all just trying to have fun. Sci-fi definitely has its place in horror, and it also definitely has its place in Halloween. However, it's how you portray that sci-fi, in my opinion, that's what's going to make aliens and sci-fi a little more popular in the Halloween industry altogether. But I really hope you all did enjoy this video. Hopefully this was rather educational and a little eye-opening to hopefully bring the problem and a hopeful solution to the table. Anyways, you all, this is your host, Jimmy Bones. I appreciate you all joining me today, and Hauntformer. And I will see you in the next video. See ya.